wondrous effulgent liquid light. How beautiful is this diadem, diamond-like, sparkling, yet flowing crystal stream, the elixir of life, the radiant fashion of the tides of heaven, come again to the panting, thirsty heart and soul. I come then to you tonight, mindful of the glorious appearing in my own life of the victorious achievement of the ascension. The ascension, unknown by many, is the foundation and beginning of the kingdom of heaven for every man. The example set by the Master Jesus, almost in the fashion of the prophet Elijah, going into heaven in a chariot of fire, is the radiant end or beginning of every life stream's opportunity for cosmic service. We who serve at higher levels, in our outpouring of service to humanity upon this planetary body, do give our energy and the fruits of our service and attainment unto embodied humanity as a bequest of infinite love. Yet our service is not all engrossing unto humanity, but also is about our Father's business in that realm of the Spirit considered by many to be fictitious, but by others to be a heavenly but unknown state, and by others still a heavenly and known state. For there are varying degrees of attainment here upon the planetary body in the hearts and beings of man. And in these various diverse measures of attainment do we see and witness how one individual differs from another at a given moment. Yet all one day will come to the self-same crowning achievement of those cosmic goals of the Spirit, which are the birthright of every man. The elixir of life, the flowing energy of the sacred fire, immortally brought forth into the consciousness of those who are imbued with the power from on high to accept their high calling of God, is bequeathed to all, yet all do not at a given moment accept it, one being taken and another left. My own experiences with beloved Godfrey are to me a source of infinite joy and compassion for those who have not yet attained but are still awaiting attainment. Take heart, beloved ones, take heart. I give to you and pledge to you my sacred word this night that the love of God has programmed for you all a similar opportunity, a victorious overcoming of the vicissitudes of life and the darkness of this world. Over land and sea, over mountains that lay before me as mountains of stumbling, I journeyed in my search to find attainment. Imagine then my startle as, at an unexpected moment, the joy and victory of that search culminated in the beautiful experience of which you have heard, the experience of attainment. The hopes of all the years were then brought to a fruition of the Spirit. Calmness and the certitude of knowing are beneficial to the soul of man. For these enable him to recognize that after a considerable search, he will at last be rewarded. Do not be over-concerned, beloved hearts of light, simply because you have failed to attain in previous moments of struggle and search. Be not dismayed. Be not affrighted, nor consider yourselves as an offcast from the gates of heaven. For heaven beckons and comes very close. Many times as I journeyed throughout the realm of experiences in the earth life, I also found that struggles seemed to overcome me, and discouragement aimed directly at dissuading me from the search caused me momentarily to pause. The wise do it not, and yet I do not think of myself in that former state as always acting wisely, but persistently. For I was persistent to storm the very gates of the citadel of heaven, and I continued to pursue the spiritual path, even when some around me sought to discourage me. And many circumstances that are unrecorded still occurred in my life, which prevented me from enjoying at all times the fullness of the divine search. Yet the eye of God beckoned. The perception of God continued to call me. And I knew that it was a matter of divine and infinite destiny that one day I should receive the gift of the ascension. Yet when the moment came, I knew it not. And scarcely as it was happening did I know it. Yet so wondrous was it, when I begin to feel that buoyant joy, that caress of the infinite upon my finite being, that dissolved it altogether, and in its place, almost as the sea spewed forth the beautiful, compassionate experience of molding me in cosmic form into the infinitude of God's thought. The perfect body appeared. The perfect mind appeared. The perfect soul ruled the world of my being. A surge of infinite strength came forth, and I rose into the air, into the arms of a similar dissolvement as had happened previously to beloved Jesus. For a cloud, too, of infinite cosmic love received me out of the sight of men, and in the bond of cosmic compassion I expanded my knowledge into the infinite as cadences of loveliness, receding into a far and distant future which appeared before me then as a mountain of hope. And I entered into the joy of God, and the joy of God filled my soul, and darkness vanished altogether. And in the mystery of being, I understood that others like me would follow also in the wake of my experience, and would come to realize at last that the infinite lamp of God was always lit, awaiting the return home of the prodigal child and the lifting up of each individual who passed through this magnificent gift of attainment with the vestments of immortality. Oh, what joy filled my being after all these years, home at last. At first I was impelled to shower the universe upon my benefactor, I felt such compassion for him that I almost did not utter praise unto God. And yet, almost in an instant, praise unto God swelled up within me, and the passions of holy prayer, even from this higher state, begin to peal, first like distant thunder, and then with increasing cadences and power, until my soul could scarcely stand the completeness of this joy as it cascaded within me. O beloved hearts, I urge upon one and all a faith and sense of response to the purposes of God, which abide in you all. I urge upon you the infinite grace and understanding of life and the life of the soul. Be not affrighted, as I have said. Be not of fear, but be of faith. For then one day, that of which you have scarcely dreamed will become for you, as for me, a tender reality, an infinite gift, the gift of infinity. And yet, our point of contact in service is also meshing with the gears of time as we come forth from time to admonish, to teach, to express and shower our love upon mankind. The darkness ought not to be, only the light ought to endure. The doubts that assail mankind ought to vanish in a burst of faith. Beauty ought to replace ugliness, and men understand that the pseudo-image must cease to exist in the light of the face of the eternal presence. For the presence has power and glory and strength beyond the ken of your imaginations, of your thoughts, even at first of some who enter the ascended state. For there is also a required development after the ascension, and the process of learning continues. From glory unto glory, even as by the Spirit of God, and the hopes of the ages find fulfillment in the dawn of individual realization. And then the purposes of God become reality to each soul. O tender hearts, hearken unto the words we speak, but above all, hearken unto the Spirit behind these words. Understand that it is the loving plan of God for each of you to be raised into the ritual of your ascension in due process of time. When the fullness of the time has come, then each of you will also suffer this experience as a tribute to the joy of God within you. Realize that many circumstances that appear now as shadows upon your path are only that, the clouds betwixt the sun shining in her strength upon the mountaintop. And even at the mountaintop, men see the clouds as reflected in the shadow. But one day, there will be no more clouds, because man will have climbed in consciousness to those mountain heights of spiritual experience, brought to him by the Holy Spirit, that lift him up high upon the mountain into that realm, that cloudless realm, where he can at last see the fullness of the sun shining in his strength. Waiting the elixir of life and the crowning joy of all your experience, you will find one day that each breath is a prayer, that each thought is a thought of compassion to humanity. God-like in its extensions, it continues to radiate out into the world the newness and flower of hope. Hope to the ages, hope to the nations, hope to all races and kindreds and tongues, that they may realize at last that the Father in his infinite love has intended for all the victory of attainment, and for none the demolition of their opportunity. Will you then tonight, fastening your faith upon the living God, be content to rest upon the laurels of divine love within you, to realize that it is love that moves and impels all of you together to create the ritual of joint attainment, that it is love that enables you to transcend individualized experience and rise at last into those infinite arms of love, whereby the joy in you will become complete, because it is the completion of a divine and infinite experience. Oh, magnificent ascended joy, convey thyself unto humanity, convey thyself unto the students of the light, and enable them to rejoice at last that the power of attainment is coming their way, that power will annihilate all that is less than the perfection of the light, that light itself will engulf them as a swaddling garment, as the newness and renewal of all life and all strength and all love, that then their chief concerns will be that they will continue to remain in that infinite light of contact, as in the experience of Peter and John upon the mountaintop in the crown of the Transfiguration. For these experiences precede the experience of the ascension. And therefore those of you who will, if you will it strongly enough, and if it please divine providence, shall receive also prior to your ascension the gift of the transfiguring experience, whereby your bodies, minds, and whole beings are aerated by the Holy Spirit and given that stroke of infinite compassion, that majesty of the heavenly gift that enables you to taste, even ahead of time, those cosmic experiences of divine bliss, which one day will be yours for all ages and all time immemorial. For there shall be no darkness there, but only light. For the Christ of every man will be the light within the city, the citadel of his being. I, David Lloyd, pledge to all of you who are serious about the ascension, the bequeathing of my momentum according to your own dedication and the measure thereof. As you shall give, so shall you receive. This is the promise of God. It is the promise of your holy Christ selves. It is the promise of your mighty I Am presence. It is the promise of life unto life, the speaking and the echo and the reception. For joy and peace and love in the Holy Spirit abide forever. As a mantle they shall cover the earth. As a mantle, as you will, so shall they cover you. With the gratitude and grace of God for man, his creation, we are also his servants. Peace be upon you.
Gloire arrivée, entre nous de la tyrannie, l'état bas semblant élevé, l'état bas semblant élevé. Entendez-vous dans les campagnes, mais il s'effarouche soldat, et viennent jusque dans vos bras, égorgés au fils vos campagnes. Aux armes, citoyens, ornez-vous bataillons, marchez, marchez, que ça dure, pas vrai, Venetian.
I am the advocate of your liberty, of your God-freedom. I am lifting up the torch of cosmic vision, whereby there shall be dispersed to men and women of hope and charity those sparks of cosmic infinite liberty, which shall become the individualized chalice of fiery hope unto the world. The edicts of heaven depend both upon the heart of God and upon the heart of man. For there is an interchange of cosmic perception given also to those whose hands are held out in loving adoration to those fiats of God which from time to time are vouchsafed unto mankind. Beloved ones, it is time to cast off the weights of darkness. It is time to bring the great life beams of the solar light unto the world. For behind the sun, those cosmic gifts and graces, scintillating with joy, with hope, and with newness of life, are given unto mankind according to the yearning of the hearts of men. For the stream of cosmic truth, unbroken in its continuity from the beginning of time unto the present moment, for always upon the planetary body have we had in embodiment those emissaries and servants of the light, which while they have not been recognized by embodied humanity, I am here to tell you they have been recognized by us. It is also a gift most precious that we are able to maintain the thread of contact with humanity, lifting them out of darkening moments into moments where they can at last open their spiritual eyes, open the power of perception and cosmic vision that is given unto man, unto God, that they may receive from the spiritual realms those messages of love and light which are destined to radiate into the world the spiritual joy of the angels and the cosmic outreach of the holy apostles, prophets, teachers, and masters of the ages, knowing and understanding with a certitude of the Spirit that each individual has a destiny, immortal and beautiful, whereby love can be expanded in the chalice of the world community, and peace will indeed replace war, darkness, and destruction, which comes about because of human greed and misunderstanding, because of human manipulation, and those shadows which themselves are no part of the lofty cosmic concepts of the living God, given to all who will base their life upon the things of the Spirit and hold contact with their own God presence, even within the heart of hearts that belongs unto each one. Have you thought, beloved ones, of your heart as a point of contact with deity? Have you thought of your heart as an altar, a place where, because God comes, light and love can change your destiny from that of dust into spiritual gold, the treasures of heaven that descend upon mankind with renewed fervor, as mankind also garner from the heart of God those remnants of his love which they are able to interpret by reason of their own fortitude, gathered also through carrying upon their shoulders the burden and responsibility of the purification and refinement of their own God-given gift of soul. I am the goddess of liberty, and I lift up my torch high into the atmosphere, a torch of freedom and of liberty. I say, scatter ye, scatter ye, scatter ye, sparks of sacred fire out into the world domain, and let centers of liberty be formed wherever there are beating hearts, waiting for the newness of life to descend. The fountain of the Spirit is omnipresent. Only individual non-acceptance can prevent the gifts of God from coming into manifestation in the heart of all. For God wills it so. The question then before each monad is this: do you also will it so? Can you join heart, head, and hand with your own mighty I Am presence? Can you seize upon the opportunities of the moment? Can you fashion in the fullness of faith those rituals of the Spirit whereby your own inner attunement with your God presence shall bring to you at last the fountain of the ages and the rock thereof? For the rock cannot be moved, symbolizing that the faith of individuals shall perform perforce a mighty work in this day, which while mankind en masse may behold, they en masse may not necessarily understand. As we send forth the full domain and range of the cosmic teachings into the world order, we are continuously hopeful that mankind will at last receive the teachings intact. But unfortunately, there are some who, by reason of their own human suspicions, their fears and their doubts, cast to the winds the great power of cosmic caution, which would enable them to judge by their works those who are servants of the light. Instead, they unfortunately, as I have said, bring mankind unto their judgment and to the seat of judgment, thus rendering their own opportunities less powerful simply because they have destroyed in part the wondrous individualized opportunities which God has brought to all. O beloved hearts, take heed then not to judge others, but afford all the great blessing and freedom of being able to judge for themselves as to whether or not they will avail themselves of the cosmic opportunity of the ages, these magnificent divine gifts and graces which are constantly descending upon mankind. We urge then that the altar of the heart be indeed recognized as a chalice of opportunity, that each individual afford themselves of that opportunity according to their capacity to receive. When we, as emissaries of God, bring to the world the edicts and karmic exposures which are the gifts of God to mankind, we do it in the expectancy of hope and the fullness of the realization of human need. It is not enough to have a little knowledge, for a little knowledge can, beloved ones, become a dangerous thing if it is not recognized and utilized in the fulfillment of one's own individualized cosmic destinies, which are the fountain of the Holy Spirit in its rapturous and wondrous outpouring of cosmic joy and peace upon the world community. The world community, like a garden of flowers, a garden of cosmic virtue, continues to spring up here and there continues to descend the mighty rains from heaven that will nourish beneath all that God would do upon the earth, and yet mankind, out of blindness of heart and a failure of devotion or apprehension, have continued again and again in the world community to suffer the depredations of their own lack of faith, for they have torn down the mighty strands of hope that heaven has lowered, and unfortunately remain then bound by those cords and ropes of their own creation. Now I say, let us create new matrices of freedom, which shall enable mankind to at last receive, acknowledge, and love the intense, fiery devotion which heaven is giving to mankind. Thus we shall increase the community of hearts in the world community. We shall increase the strength of hearts. We shall increase the strength of God's feelings upon earth by the power of the Holy Spirit. For the Holy Spirit does indeed embody those concepts of fiery devotion which will renew in man the sense that he himself has acknowledgeably lost and forgotten. With the renewal of culture in the world community, with the renewal of devotion, with the renewal of service, man then will not seek so much to be served or recognized as to love, to serve, and to recognize. For out of the crucible of this purposeful exposure to you today of the fires of heavenly devotion can come about in the whole world the renaissance of the good and the beautiful. And by replacing the ugly and defacing aspects of life with the good and beautiful and true, we can expect to reap a harvest of souls which are needed. Some of you are aware of the unfortunate yet true message of Fatima. You are aware of how destruction may indeed come at noonday upon mankind as a result of their failures to apprehend the light. Pray then, as never before, for a new awakening in the world community, for a renewal of heart's love, for an understanding of the completion of the divine plan. God foreknew, and it shall be done. If humanity shall fail, I say unto you that there are other sheep that are not of this fold. I say to you that the planetary orbs inhabited in the heavens are many. I say unto you that the life evolutions that exist in the universe are many, and I say unto you that the peerless opportunities given from the realm of heaven to mankind continue to bring to humanity the greatest opportunity of all ages, simply because men have in blindness of heart failed to exercise these opportunities is no reason why they cannot do so. For simply because something has not been does not mean that it cannot be. For I tell you of a truth, there is a greater potential within the heart of each individual than each individual realizes. Will you then seize upon my words of this moment, and recognizing that there is a greater opportunity than you have previously realized, will you begin in thought and in consciousness to expand that opportunity? Will you then accept this which I bring to you as spokesman for the karmic board? I say to you, out of the joy of God, that there is the vastness of hope before you as a sea in all its shining, pearly, milk-white splendor, its diamond-crowning radiance. The light of God that never fails will bring throughout the current year and the year that is to come renewed opportunities you dream not of. And yet, the decision must of necessity remain your own, for the very spirit of liberty proclaims it. The karmic board proclaims it. You have God freedom if you will only understand that. All mankind have God freedom if they will only understand it. But this freedom was actually intended to be freedom of opportunity. And when mankind accept that opportunity, then the joy bells of heaven ring out a fulfilled mission of the Spirit, that a soul has at last come to the fruition and recognition of its own divine ideals and patterns, and with the acceptance of those holy patterns, mankind shall ultimately become complete. You have a saying amongst you that Rome was not built in a day. I say, aye, it is so. But let all understand that each day is intended to bring forth a cup of fruit, a cup of accomplishment, a cup of achievement, that each day is a day of destiny, that each day has been given to all in order to bring that destiny up the ladder of life into the heavenly realm in consciousness. It is enough that mankind pay heed to the law of love, but mankind do not. For even though they would not know the great spiritual and mystical laws governing universal action, I am sure that if they would express the law of love itself in truth and honesty of heart, the world itself would begin to come aright. And out of that coming into righteousness of the world, others who had not been moved would then turn at last until the fountains of righteousness would spring up in the land and in all lands. In memory of golden ages now past then, again I raise my torch. Again I disperse those spiritual sparks into your midst. And again I say, women of the world, accept the fiat of the feminine ray. I say, men of the world, accept in due cosmic honor the memory of the feminine ray. For the culture of the mother of the world shall again be born in hearts and minds, and the nurturing of the young and the application of the things of the Spirit shall bring this age, as God wills, as man wills, into the light of ascendancy and perfection. As the achievements of science are with you, so the achievements of a greater science, the science of the angels, is with you. And out of this consciousness shall be born the music of the spheres, and those artistic accomplishments whereby the children of the incoming golden age shall be taught at last the rudiments of the spiritual arts that govern heaven in all its wondrous ability to fulfill and remain the throne of God. Out of the eternal light I am come. The shining diadem of ageless wisdom, the creative strength of 10,000 worlds, the creative strength of cosmos. Around the central circle of cosmic fire of infinite love is the eternal unity of oneness, the dissolvement I have made of the Eucharist of self into the mystical cloud, whereby all upon the planetary body may behold me, hiding behind the boughs of the eternal pine, or the tender faces of roses in the gardens of the world. And in the faces of humanity, there I am. Behind the appearance world, I have given of myself, yet lo, I can and I am come again at will to all who will receive me. Let them open wide the door of their heart, and let there be preserved the miracle of our appearing within them. To all, to each is given the teaching of the eternal fount of beingness, the radiant fire. I am that I am. Tenderness is with me and love to guide men even in the hours when they find themselves the momentary victim of darkness in mind or being, to carry them safely over the rocks and shoals. This is my goal. But it is the goal of the eternal crystals. For lo, as I came out of the light, in the beginningness of all things, the light then stood in effulgent reality upon the dry land, and behold, the eternal concept of being was to be found then in the eternal consciousness of the Christ. I am universal, and I am personal. I am one with each heart who will receive me, even as God, through me also, is one with each heart. Out of the oneness of hearts is manifest the strength of the ages, and in each age there has appeared unto man a portion of our infinite being, the beingness of the Almighty, showered upon mankind with that ageless wisdom of eternal strength, shining new hope unto all. With each glow of our appearance in the field of nature, let also mankind find himself rendered aware of the depth of God to be found in the heart and mind of mortal men, no longer blind or suffering then the depredations of the ages. These are free as the sun, and these are with me as one, and out of the light we are come. As the voice of many waters, the joint heirs in divine sonship, coming into consummate reality and strength, and beholding the beauty of the eternal Christ Mass. O ageless wonder, O fountain of the stars, let the tender flames of sprouting divinity and awareness enter into the pulsations of heart and mind, cast out all fear, and open eyes that are blind, to see at last that, lo, I am with you always, even unto the end of the age. And in this age today before you, still blinded by the bluntings of dogmatic confusions, and in blind confusions causing conflict of hearts and heart interests, breaking hearts in my name, when instead all should come into that sweet and solemn surrender of the senses unto the eternal sense, to the realization that all things were made by me, and without me was nothing made that was made. Lo, I am come then, thy own fountainhead of divinity, and the divinity of all is to be found in me. For I am also the beginning and the ending. And in the concept of Alpha and Omega, in the concept of the living God and the concept of beingness, do my sheep hear my voice, and they that hear will follow me. For lo, not in a spirit of discord, but in a spirit of harmony, is to be found true reality. It springs forth like the eternal pine upon the heavenly pathway. It points the way to the stars, and the music of the stars, the music of the spheres, comes as thawing frozen wonder into the heart of blind mankind, and all feeling then the sweet and ineffable tenderness of God's love, understand that their opportunity is to be found in each transcendent giving of themselves unto their fellow man as servants of God, and those who have the testimony which I bear, the testimony of Jesus, which speaketh also unto the churches, and saith, Awake, thou that sleepest, and arise from the dead, and Christ shall live in thee. O beautiful and splendid prayer, Our Father, let the hearts of thy children be touched then by thy outbreathing wonder this specific Christmas season, that no longer will they continue to return into the marts of commerce with their hearts burning with commercial lust and greed after the things of the world and those things that divide mankind and bring them to a spiritual famine, but instead they will awaken and see that their eyes will behold at last the fields whited to the harvest, and they will know and they will understand that out of the hearts of the world are the voices crying now in the wilderness, Lo, I am come. In these sheep of my pasture scattered abroad, in the world order, and waiting to hear my voice and the message of cosmic unity which I bring. It is a message of hope and a message of courage. It is a message that today I am speaking to the world. Hear me once again, and turn us not away from the inn of thy being. Turn us not away from the help that we bring, from the help that we are, from the true and eternal message of our star. Light beams, shining then from afar, find in every place the hope that would, if they could see our face, a new message, shining brighter still, fills the world with hope for God's own will. It came originally upon the first eternal natal day, when I myself was torn away from the very heart of God, by whom all things are made. For out of the light I came, and out of the light I come. I am the light of the world. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. For lo, the eternal plans are born to fruition. After the darkness comes the morn, the eternal morn, speaking to all of the brightness of the new day of our appearing. For out of the light I came in the beginning of all creation. There was I, and the morning stars danced together for joy. Men have not understood the morning stars of creation. They have not understood the elder days of art, of cosmic culture. They have not understood the great drift of the ages into the wonder and miracle of life upon the pages of mankind's history, but dimly perceived. And now we raise before you all our scepter, not a bruised reed, but one labeled dominion and power and majesty, and the appearance of the wonder of the man-child. Out of the east I am come, For lo, I am thyself in thy highest outreach. Wilt thou understand this, O mankind, that I am thyself in thy highest outreach? Behold then thy own nativity as a joint heir with the Son of God. For he gave originally to mankind the greatest of gifts, his own image. Is there a greater image in all the world? Come then this day in a perpetual novena of hearts, and in memory of my blessed Mother, give to the world the power of the ageless wonder of the woman to bring forth the man-child that shall rule the nations with a rod of iron. Behold, I am the light of dominion. Take dominion then this day over thy world, O mankind, and see that you understand above all things this word. Be not blind in heart and mind. No longer see the things of the world that bind, but instead raise thy head to the eternal purposes of the ages, the mastering of thyself, thy emotions, thy doubts, thy fears, all that has been created in the matrix of humanity that is not of the light. Take dominion over the earth and subdue it. Rule thyself, and thou shalt be fit to enter into my eternal kingdom. There I have reserved a place for thee and for all mankind, and there the eternal God has opened the great ark of the covenant and shown unto all mankind that his reward is to be found in the service of the light and the light alone. All who serve the darkness shall go into darkness and the bottomless pit, from whence there shall be no return. And all who serve the light shall be carried from glory unto glory, even as by the Spirit of the Lord, until at last, finding themselves upon the three-in-one throne of cosmic identity, the mastery of the threefold flame, the consummate identity of each man, love, wisdom, and power, divine omnipotence, divine omniscience, and divine omnipresence, man shall understand that as he comes out of the light, so unto the light shall he return. And the burning flame passed before Abraham in the smoking lamp shall appear. And the smoke of the pit shall be no more, and in its place will come eternal perfection, as it was envisioned in the original image thereof. And God shall wipe away all tears from the eyes of man, and there shall be no sorrow, nor crying, nor weeping, but only the rejoicing in paeans of praise unto him who liveth and breatheth, and is the Lord, whose very breath is thy own. Out of the pneuma, out of the great eternal oasis of perfection, I am come, and that oasis of perfection in miniature is a replica of the heaven to come within thyself. O eternal Christ Mass, come thou then into thy consuming awareness in man, and let there be light. Come thou into the rebirth of man, and let there be light. Come thou into the hearts of men, and let there be light. Lo, I, Jesus, have sent also mine angel to testify unto you that I remain the eternal Son in the heavens, beckoning thee, come unto me, and I will give you rest. Peace be upon you all.
I love you truly, truly, dear. Life with its sorrow, life with its tear, fades into dreams when I feel you are near. For I love you truly, truly, dear. Our love, 'tis something to feel your kind hand.
Ah, yes, 'tis something by your side to stand.
Gone is the sorrow,
Gone doubt and fear, for you love me truly.
truly, dear. I love you truly, truly, dear. Life with its sorrow, life with its tear, fades into dreams when I feel you are near. For I love you truly, truly, dear.
All the Venetian. Gracious hearts, filled with the distillation of cosmic joy and love, I come to you to remind you of your need to adjust your consciousness to the gracious mind of God beauty. For beauty is only divine, and man, by his acceptance of divine grace and the beautiful sense, can create a renewal in his being, which will fill his consciousness with the distillation of truth, formless, spiritual, and omnipresent. Omnipresent in the sense that whensoever a man desires it, he may draw upon the limitless abundance of God's own sense of beauty, transcending all human opinion, and in actuality manifest in the opinions of those who attune with the divine sense of heaven and the senses of the angels. Heaven has wrought more of grace unto the earth than the earth is aware of. And we want to develop in you the realization that through the process of attunement, individuals are able to increase their own abundant sense of life, its graces, its beauty, and its joy. Joy springs eternal from the heart of God. For the Lord that worketh hitherto has also worked the art of beauty, and interwoven that beauty in the fabric, the warp and woof of creation. So stable is this manifestation that all planetary orbs and all individuals are functional because of divine grace. Let men then, holding to the sense of divine abundance and the gratitude of God to man and to the creatures, understand that the Godhead is also fed with gratitude from the creation. And this is multiplied 100-fold. Many then are giving gratitude unto God, but these many are in reality only the few compared to the many who do not give gratitude or any sense of return to the Godhead, thus increasing the beautiful sense in the millions and billions of Earth's evolution. We are concerned that there be then an increase in the sense of gratitude and attunement. For as man is grateful unto God, there occurs the miracle of divine intervention in the lives of those who are grateful. For out of their gratitude is spun a sense for more grace to come. Let all understand the ability of the Godhead to increase the abundance of himself. The sense of the beautiful, then, is itself an example of this increase in the natural power of God, in the being and mind of the individual monad. For man starts out at first with only a limited sense of divine bestowal. He does not always realize all the care and consideration that God has for him, the sense of universal beauty, and the perfection of the divine nature that is within him. Being bereft of this divine nature in a sense, he does not encourage its growth, its expansion. Let all recognize then that in man also lies the great gift of increasing his own potential. Which potential is the nature of God, the nature of the beautiful sense, the nature of the joy of creativity. To be able to create that others also may share in the abundance of God, to be able to spread abroad the law of love amongst mankind, to be able to disseminate the culture of the ages. This is also a very great miracle of perfection, calculated to engender in the hearts of the unborn a sense of universal loveliness. Here in the higher realm, the temples of light are pulsating with a sense of divine abundance and beauty. For these go hand in hand, the feeding of the creation by the infinite potential of God. This creates the pulsating appearance, the pulsation being the ever-flowing cadences of light marching on to increase the beautiful sense in the creation itself. For even the molecules and the ergs of energy are endowed by God with marginal, fractional concepts of universal beauty. These, inherent within themselves, act as applause to the creation. Therefore the words, I say unto you, if these shall hold their peace, the very stone shall cry out, comes to mind. Let men understand then that the perfection of the presence, the intricacy of the creation, and the intricacy of the creative mind in all is endowed with a lofty and beautiful structuring of cosmic expansion. through the indulgence by man of his own being in a sense of universal reverie, entering the halls of creative potential, each individual is able to fathom for himself the depths of the love of God, to be found in the sense of the beautiful, not in the ugly. All actions stemming from human level do themselves dam up the flow of the universal tides of cosmic energy, which by their latent light potential, latent only in the sense that man sees them as such, do continue to flow and invoke, producing such a magnificent miracle in the fountain of consciousness as to endow man with an incalculable sense of the infinite wonders of God. As we hold this grasp to be self-evident, we urge all to experiment with the renewed sense of beauty captivated by the Holy Spirit. As the flow expands in the individual mind and consciousness, man will see by the very feelings he wears that a new sense is born, one he hesitates to let go of, one he longs to see ever present with him. Beloved hearts of light, understand, comprehend this now, that you can, if you will, preserve your consciousness of the beautiful sense daily, hourly. You need not to relinquish it ever, if you will submit yourselves unto the domain of God with a whole heart, holding back no part of the price, but seeing here the endowment of God and nature, of man. For it can truly be said in one beautiful sense that both God and nature do serve the needs of man, weaving a fabric of cosmic loveliness to be found in the gentle common things of life. But, beloved ones, the beautiful sense to be found there is not to be lost there, but to be recognized as the beginning or origin of one's thoughts, arising and pulsating into more objects of true divine art that may be brought into the consciousness and then perhaps in those who are capable, used to create beauty in song, in songcraft, in the sweetness of marble when endowed with angelic form, in the penetration of light, color, and movement in and upon the canvas, and above all to convey the sense of the omnipresence of God in every jot and tittle of nature. As we come to you today, it is to warm your hearts in preparation for the Christmas season, one which humanity have recognized as solstice, a time of the year when the increasing darkness gives greater awareness of the light. And the true light of the Christ must be born in every heart. And while I do not say that all men choose to manifest the control of the media of art, I say let all learn the self-control whereby they may become enraptured by the divine art of fashioning their lives in nobility and splendor, and compromising nothing, but always instead recognizing the stability of God, who cannot be moved from his appointed rounds, his domain of perfection and grace. It is not necessary that individuals should chastise their souls and feel that because, in a physical sense, often in times of confusion and distress, they have performed acts that they feel the Godhead would not be pleased with. In developing the beautiful sense, you must be willing to shed the sense of the ugly and all that is not of the divine nature in yourself. It is the Holy Spirit that whites man unto perfection and generates him the spirit of regeneration, calculated to, above all, give him the methodology whereby he will be able, at last, at will, at what some of you have called a push-button touch, to create those perfect thoughts and the flow of those thoughts that your hearts long for. Be not distressed because of the darkness of the world, with the overpowering senses of conveying projections of darkness into the mind. When you encounter these conditions, cast them aside as you would an unwanted garment. Learn to develop, with each oppressive attack of darkness, the new sense of the living God. Examine the fabric of nature of your lives, of your thoughts, of the flow of your thoughts, of your outreach toward expansion, and understand that locked within the atoms of your heart and your mind and your being are to be found limitless treasures. Comprehend these treasures. Learn to caress them with the fingers of the mind and perceive how, in expansive reality, you will portray at last, as the days pass, a greater measure of that infinite grace which God is. For your lives are also encanvassed, printed upon electronic essence, the structuring of Akasha. And out of the light comes forth the sense of God's intervention in the being and nature of man. Man has indeed proposed, but God has ever disposed. And in the divine disposition comes freedom from oppression and a recognition at last that the fires of the sun are to be found in the coloring of nature. Within the soul of man, the distillation of the divine essence is healing and portraying, capable of portraying the divine nature everywhere. Let your light, your color, your new sense shine everywhere. Let it shine before men's eyes, that they may see you not as a muddied individual, torn with doubts and frustrations, but one who holds freedom from the skies in the chalice of the heart, in the colorations of the aura, in the internal registration of the details of the cosmic hierarchy upon the screen of the mind and consciousness. So control the cadences of your lives that you no longer are the subject of trivial manifestation, of fears and doubts. Replace them all by this transcendent new sense, always within the Holy Spirit, that gives free rein to love, that love may move fragrantly in the halls of the mind, giving vent to expansion, to outreach, to newness of life, and above all, to the casting down of those things that have destroyed the soul within man. For out of the beautiful sense is born the dawn of a new day for each man and woman. It begins with your own acceptance of the tides of infinity. These tides, as they have gone out for many in the past, must come in with renewed vigor, they must extend themselves into the world community as a community of hearts. They must alleviate depression and repression. They must show the fragrance of the soul upon the beautiful backdrop of the future. All things come into perspective, and the larger picture looms before man. It is not the grossness of the world, but it is the infinite etherealization of the idealism of God projected into the now to change the sands in the falling glass into the beauty and purity of new fallen snow, the whiteness of eternity shining in the glass and promising that out of thy handiwork shall come a cultural, cosmic engrossment in things of the Spirit that know no aim, but only an infinite increase and flow into eternal value. There is beauty in stillness. There is beauty in expectancy. There is beauty in hope. There is beauty in fulfillment of that hope. I am listening angel, one who waits upon the Lord, one who waits to hear the peace and the certitude of the heavenly message that I may relay in consciousness unto those who will also listen the peace and joy of this season and of the season of foreverness. Calm is the night. Beauty is to be found in the great light, in the light of stillness. Have you heard a star shine? Understand then that there is a magnificence of interaction within the senses of man. In the physical realm there is great rigidity, great form consciousness, for things are thought of as in form whole. Now, when you move into what humanity have called the astral realm, they find there the tendency of constancy in change. Constant change appears before them. In that realm, for example, a bell may blend into a note of music and send forth its sound as a note. Items may change like a chameleon and assume other shapes and other forms. But we are concerned with the formless realm also, the realm where pure spirit and pure beauty exists independent of form. Man should recognize that many of his concepts requiring form also act as crutches to his consciousness, so that without the form he is unable to visualize the extent of the heavenly law of love. Love existed before form, blessed ones. Love exists without form. Love exists also in form. But it is the love in form that is important. For although the symbols may be symbols of love, unless they also be imbued with love, they are indeed clanging cymbals. Will you understand then, in the sense of heavenly music and the radiation of heavenly love, that it is the outpouring of the love unto the world that brings the joy within the heart that is kindled there by that divine music that also listens. For unless music listens, it loses its efficacy. For from the word muse came also music, as you have been told. And in the sense then of mankind meditating upon the law of life and of God, do they come to the great doorway of omnipotence, omniscience, and omnipresence. Man learns by listening, and listening to the voice of God, he learns more. But how many are confused by the symbols, by the images that appear before their mind? They are constrained by these images to think in terms of darkness rather than of light. We would kindle a little light within you. It will expand and expand and expand its flame until there is no longer any room in the inn of your being for aught but that flame. And then there will be no night there. Humanity should understand the law of the angels, for the angels are beings of love. We kindle love in hearts. We kindle newness of life. we kindle fragrance and freshness. We are, in some ways, as the bough of pine, with a scent of hope, a fragrance of eternal life, radiating this life out into the world. And those that listen also to the sounds of immortal life will be framed in the image of that life. And as man is able to accept the molding of his own shapes and forms in the consciousness of immortality that makes the forms, he will find himself at last in a consciousness and a state of immortality that will free him from the darkness of the age. The age is growth, so much so that whensoever we appear in this realm that has been called a realm of light but is not, we tremble almost at the gust of men's thoughts, which nearly extinguish our being when caught in the draught of their deceit and their lack of understanding of the mercy of God. Mercy is an act of universal grace. It is an act given to all hearts who are worthy to receive it. But when it is given, let men understand that oftentimes the greatest mercy is that which does not appear to be mercy at all to human hearts, but rather to be a harm. We want all to know that when they interpret the mercy of the law as the law acts, the law of return, the law of interaction, then that law may indeed seem cruel to men, when in reality it is only the chastening of those whom God loves, that he may love them more, that they may love him more, and may find in this love that is a chastening the greatest mercy, the most eternal, because it is the purpose of the living God. I am called listening angel, and I desire this day to radiate unto you the tenderness of the universal law, the law of your life, the law of your being, the law of harmony, the law of seeing, the law that penetrates behind the veil of the appearance world, the law of fragrances, that man may understand that the fragrances of the angels are also the fragrances of men. For there is in mortal fragrances a great distillation of the fruits of nature, placed there by angel hands, inherently there. Also inherently in the heart and soul that will listen and learn to love, that will bask in the fire, that flames in the night. The contrast brings to the mind of man a new sense of hope. Were he to see only the light, he might indeed be blinded thereby. But in this area of contrasts, as he sees the light shining in the night, he is able to elect that he will pursue that light unto the end of the world. For in the concept of eternality is the concept of God. Ye shall be born again. Man should understand the momentous occasion of rebirth. He should understand also the kindling of birth within the cycles of his life. He should understand how each day is also reborn in him. He should understand that as the day is born in him, it is a clean white slate of magnificent opportunity to be welcomed with the welcoming of the dawn by the ancients, also came the understanding of the fires of the dawn, inherent fires that speak of the opportunity of the day. Each day is caressed by the hands of angels, but first by the hand of God. Each day is touched callously by the hands of many of mankind, and soiled pages often present themselves by eventide. But the fault lies not with heaven, nor with the angels, but it lies with man's failure to understand the love of God. Therefore it is the mercy of God that returns unto him that which he sends out, that he may learn by the lash of chastening the great mercy of God that will teach him ultimately immortal life. As I leave you now, I leave you with a sense of the presence of the angel, of the presence of immortality, not as the spoken word alone, but the fragrance that is behind it, the concept of the imminence of the holy occasion, of the natal day, of the invisible, all-wise God, the living Christ, who said, I and my Father are one. May he live in all of you as a flame, never detracting from the universal flame, and hopefully never detracting from the flame of the individual. Be not detractors of the fire of the flame in one another. Be instead keepers of that flame, guardians of that fire. See that it never goes out within thyself or with others, but ever magnifies the Lord. For born out of this magnification is the magnification of the universal, eternal day of the universal Christ.